Do strange machines fail because they were bad, or because farming just was not ready for them yet? Some ideas were born ahead of their time. Others looked brilliant on paper, but once they hit the field, they ran into mud, dust, high costs, complicated maintenance, and farmers who simply did not buy into the promise. Today, you're going to see some of the most unusual farm machines that were canceled, forgotten, or replaced after trying to change the way work was done in the field. Some had good intentions, others were way too complicated, and a few left one question hanging in the air. How did anyone think this was going to work? Stay with me, because by the end of this list, there is a machine so unusual that it looks like it was built to solve a problem almost nobody would dare to take on. International 303 Combine. Not every canceled machine disappears because it failed in the field. Some simply become too small for a farming world that grows faster than the machine can keep up with. That was more or less the case with the International 303 Combine, built by International Harvester in the United States in the early 1960s, when many farmers were still moving from pull-type harvesters into self-propelled combines. What made the 303 unusual was its attempt to balance low-cost, straightforward mechanics and real working ability in a market that was changing fast. While farms were getting bigger and demanding wider headers, the 303 kept a compact concept with basic controls, belts, pulleys, and a narrow look that feels almost handmade compared to modern combines. Depending on the version and market, the International 303 used gasoline or diesel engines with modest power by today's standards. These engines were built more for durability than brute force, working with a mechanical transmission and adjustments that required constant attention from the operator before and during harvest. Out in the field, it had the classic behavior of older combines: metallic noise, straw being thrown out the back, dust rising around the header, and the engine holding steady at low revs. It was an honest machine, but it did not forgive careless maintenance. It was not canceled because it was useless. It faded because farming grew faster than the design could follow. Larger, more comfortable combines with better crop feeding, bigger grain tanks, and wider headers took over the market. And if this first machine already shows how quickly a good idea can age, the next one moves into an even more interesting area. A modern, efficient machine, but one tied to a very specific kind of work. MacDon M155. The MacDon M155 was born in Canada, built by MacDon as a self-propelled windrower for hay, alfalfa, canola, and other crops that need to be cut into clean, even windrows. It was made for farmers who wanted faster cutting, better header visibility, and less dependence on tractors pulling implements across big acres. What made it unusual was the shape and purpose of the machine itself. The M155 was not a regular tractor, and it was not a traditional combine. It was built almost entirely to carry cutting headers up front, with a forward cab, strong visibility, and a clear focus on following the ground, making a clean cut and laying the crop neatly for the next step. It used a 6-cylinder diesel engine with power in the range of 155 horsepower, depending on the configuration. The transmission was hydrostatic, which made perfect sense for this kind of work because it allowed smooth speed control while keeping steady power, even when the header met uneven ground or heavier crop volume. In the field, it looked different from almost anything else. A low cab, a wide front header, big tires, and the machine moving forward as if it were shaving the field with precision. The sound came from the engine holding steady, the knives cutting, and the crop being laid into clean windrows, without the heavy visual impact of a giant tractor, but with an efficiency any hay producer could recognize right away. It did not leave the scene because it lacked usefulness. It left because it was a machine for a very specific job. As MacDon's own lineup evolved, newer models brought more comfort, better control, and stronger integration with newer headers. The M155 became one of those capable machines that gets replaced not because it completely failed, but because the market demands upgrades before the field is willing to wait. Oxbo 4-334. Some machines are not built to shine in big advertising campaigns. They are built to solve a very specific problem inside the field. The Oxbo 4334, built in the United States by Oxbo, belonged to that group of machines designed for specialty crops, where conventional equipment simply does not deliver the same result. What makes this machine unusual is that it never tried to serve every farmer. The 4334 followed the philosophy of specialized machines, built to operate in crops with very particular spacing, height, sensitivity, and handling needs. Instead of brute force for pulling huge implements, the goal was to move through the crop with precision and perform work a common machine could not do the same way. Complete technical data for the Oxbo 4334 is not widely available in public materials, but machines of this type often use an industrial diesel engine, hydrostatic transmission, and strong hydraulic systems to control ground speed, steering platforms, conveyors, and harvesting components. In this case, the point was not top speed. It was fine control and operational efficiency. Visually, it had the look of a machine built to solve a problem, not to win a beauty contest. Tall structures, exposed components, conveyors, elevators, and platforms gave it a strange but highly functional appearance. In the field, it looked like it was wrapping itself around the crop, working in places where a conventional combine would either not fit or would damage the harvest. The problem is that highly specialized machines depend on a small and sensitive market. When the production system changes, maintenance costs rise, or a more modern solution appears, a model can leave production even if it was useful. The Oxbo 4334 became an example of intelligent equipment trapped inside a niche so narrow that it never had enough room to become a large-scale machine. New Holland H9870 Stack Cruiser. The New Holland H9870 Stack Cruiser was created to pick up, carry, and stack rectangular hay or straw bales directly in the field. Built by New Holland, it appeared as a solution for reducing labor on farms, producing large volumes of forage, and needing to clear bales from the field more quickly. The unusual part was the format. Instead of relying on several people stacking bales by hand, or a tractor with a wagon, the H9870 handled the job by itself. It picked up the bales, aligned them, and formed organized stacks. It looked like a mix between a loader, a farm truck, and a field stacker. It worked with a diesel engine and a hydraulic system responsible for moving belts, arms, and stacking mechanisms. In this kind of machine, the most important thing was not brute power. It was control, smoothness, and precise repetition, because every bale had to land in the right place without stopping the operation. In the field, it moved along, picking up bales almost like it was sweeping the crop ground clean, raising dust and building stacks ready for transport. For anyone who has ever handled hay by hand, seeing a machine like this work makes it easy to understand how much mechanization changed life on the farm. If you are enjoying this ride through strange, useful, and forgotten farm machines, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell, because it helps this video reach more people who also enjoy seeing unusual machines working hard in the field. Even though it was smart, the H9870 was limited to a very specific operation. Changes in hay handling, the use of larger bales, and the preference for other systems reduced its space in the market. It did not fail because the idea was weak. It faded because the field moved in a different direction. New Holland 1283 Self-Propelled Baler. Instead of asking which tractor would pull the baler, New Holland flipped the logic around. What if the baler had its own engine, steering, and life of its own? That bold idea led to the New Holland 1283 Self-Propelled Baler, a machine created to bale without needing a tractor out front. The concept was unusual because it combined the engine, cab, pickup, and baling system into one self-propelled unit. Instead of a tractor in front and a baler behind it, the 1283 did everything in a single machine. The idea seemed excellent for gaining agility, improving operator visibility, and reducing the number of machines involved in the job. It used a diesel engine and its own transmission for low-speed agricultural work. focused on keeping a steady pace while the pickup fed crop material into the baling system. Complete technical data is not widely available, but the purpose was not to move fast across the field. It was to maintain rhythm, power, and regular feeding to form consistent bales. In the field, the look stood out because it did not really resemble a tractor, a combine, or a normal baler. It was long, functional, and looked like a serious prototype that actually made it into work. The sound of the engine came together with the pickup pulling material in, straw feeding forward, and the internal mechanism compressing everything into bales while the machine moved along the windrow. The problem was that the idea was good, but the market did not embrace it strongly enough. A self-propelled baler cost more, served a more specific role, and had more specialized maintenance than the traditional tractor and implement setup. In the end, the 1283 became a curious piece of mechanization history, remembered as an inventive attempt that raised an important question. How far does it make sense to go when turning an implement into a complete machine? Horsch ROG500. Some machines get attention because of their size. Others get attention because they seem to have been created for a kind of farm most people never see up close. The Horsch ROG500 fits into the second group. Built by Horsch in Germany as a machine aimed at high-precision field operations, with a focus on application work and large-scale farming. What made this machine unusual was the combination of operating capacity, technology, and a look very different from conventional sprayers and tractors. Horsch has always been strongly connected to seeding, tillage, and application equipment, and the ROG500 followed that same idea of a specialized machine built for farms that wanted high output and fine control. It used a diesel engine, a robust hydraulic system, and a transmission designed to maintain consistent speed during work. Specific technical data is not widely available in public sources, but the machine's purpose was clear: deliver precise application, good tank capacity, and field stability without depending on a traditional tractor and implement combination. In the field, its presence was strong. A high cab, wide structure, large tires, and application booms gave the impression of a machine built to cross the crop with authority while maintaining height, flow, and consistency. The engine sound stayed steady as the machine moved over the crop, applying product with precision instead of pulling equipment in the rougher style of a tractor. The challenge is that machines with very specific designs need a market willing to pay for that specialization. When cost, maintenance, and adaptation to each farm system become too heavy, even a smart idea can remain limited. The Horsch ROG500 ended up in that category of advanced, unusual, and efficient equipment that never became a common sight across every field. And the next machine takes an even stranger path, because it tried to turn tractor power into something far outside the usual pattern. 4750 Versatile. Some tractors are born to pull an implement. Others look like they were designed to prove how far agricultural engineering could stretch an idea. The 4750 Versatile, tied to Versatile's Canadian tradition, appears on this list because it represents a time when manufacturers were looking for large, strong, and different solutions for big acre farming. The unusual side of this model was the concept of heavy power applied to field work, with a rugged structure, strong traction, and construction aimed at large implements. Versatile became known for articulated tractors and big machines built for wide-open acres, difficult soils, and farmers who needed to cover more ground in less time. Machines in this family usually used high-powered diesel engines, heavy-duty transmissions, and hydraulic systems sized to pull or operate large implements. When complete technical information is not available from reliable sources, the safest way to understand the machine is through its purpose. It was not built for speed. It was built to hold steady power in tillage, heavy disking, planting, and wide field operations. Visually, a Versatile of this size does not go unnoticed. A large hood, huge tires, center articulation, and a wide stance give the impression of a machine that bends in the middle to fight the ground. In the field, it does not simply move. It looks like it is pushing the earth backward, with the smell of diesel, dust rising, and an implement opening a wide path behind it. What worked against projects like this was the evolution of the market itself. More modern tractors began offering better comfort, electronics, improved transmissions, guidance systems, better efficiency, and more predictable maintenance. The 4750 Versatile became a symbol of an era of rugged, large, functional machines that were gradually left behind by more technology-driven farming. And if this tractor already shows power on a heavy scale, the next topic moves into the territory of machines that look more like a factory experiment than ordinary farm equipment. Ferguson FE35 Tandem. Every once in a while, the solution for gaining more power did not come from a bigger engine. It came from a much stranger idea, joining two tractors together and trying to make one larger unit work as a single machine. The Ferguson FE35 Tandem was born from that kind of thinking, using the base of the Ferguson FE35, a well-known British tractor from the 1950s and 1960s. The concept was unusual because the original FE35 was already a small, simple, and popular tractor on family farms. By turning two units into a tandem system, the idea was to increase traction, weight on the ground, and pulling capacity for heavier implements. It was a practical, almost experimental attempt to get more strength from a familiar machine without immediately moving to a large and expensive tractor. The Ferguson FE35 usually used a 4-cylinder engine, with diesel and gasoline versions, delivering modest power by today's standards. The transmission was manual, simple, and durable, made for everyday rural work. In the tandem arrangement, the real challenge was not just the engine. It was making steering, traction, controls, and balance work acceptably in a longer and less conventional setup. In the field, the visual impact was hard to ignore. Two small tractors joined together created a curious, almost homemade appearance, but with a very practical farm logic behind it. If one cannot handle the job, try putting two together. The sound of the engines, the stiffer movement, and the difficulty of maneuvering made it clear this was not a normal solution for every farm. The problem is that this kind of adaptation had obvious limits. It was more complex to operate, harder to maintain, and did not offer the same practicality as a tractor designed from the start to be bigger and stronger. The Ferguson FE35 Tandem became an inventive curiosity, remembered for showing the creativity of farmers and builders, but also for proving that not every clever field solution can become a successful product. Doe Triple-D. Few farm machines are as simple to explain and as strange to watch in action as the Doe Triple-D. Created in the United Kingdom by Ernest Doe, it was born from joining two Fordson Supermajor tractors side by side and articulating them in a bold attempt to create a high-power tractor before large articulated tractors took over the market. That was exactly what made it unusual. Instead of designing a giant tractor from scratch, the solution was to combine two known units into one machine with four-wheel drive, center articulation, and doubled strength. Each side had its own 4-cylinder diesel engine, and together they delivered around 100 horsepower, a very respectable number for that era. The transmission was based on the mechanical setup of the original tractors, with adapted controls so both sides could work together. In practice, the operator controlled a machine that looked like two tractors trying to agree on which way to turn, but it offered superior traction for pulling plows and heavy implements through difficult soils. It was mechanical strength, direct control, and very little luxury. In the field, the Doe Triple-D was impossible to ignore. Two hoods, two engines, big tires, center articulation, and a doubled engine note created an almost theatrical presence in the field. It raised dust, pulled heavy implements, and drew attention precisely because it looked like an absurd idea that, for a while, actually worked. What brought the project down was the arrival of more modern articulated tractors that were more integrated and easier to operate. The Triple-D had limited production and is now a collector's piece, highly admired at vintage machinery shows. It did not fail because it lacked genius. It was a bridge between the conventional tractor and the modern articulated tractor. And now there's only one machine left, the most unusual one on the list, a creation that took mechanization into a narrow, underground, and often overlooked job. Damme Drainage. At the top of the list is a machine that was not built to shine above the crop, but to work in one of the toughest and least glamorous jobs in agriculture: drainage. Damme Drainage, connected to specialized agricultural drainage solutions, belongs in this world of unusual machines because it deals with water, heavy soil, and buried pipe, a job that can decide whether a field produces well or becomes a problem after every rain. What made this machine so different was its purpose. While tractors, combines, and sprayers work in visible operations, a drainage machine needs to cut a path underground, install pipe, control depth, and maintain the correct grade so water can flow. Power alone is not enough. It needs precision, stability, and control, because just a few inches of error can compromise the entire system. Machines of this type usually use a high-torque diesel engine, a transmission designed for slow and steady movement, and tracks or large tires for traction in wet areas. The hydraulic system is essential for controlling the blade, installation structure, depth, and alignment. In many specialized models, leveling technology helps maintain the correct slope of the pipe, which is critical for drainage to work properly. In the field, the visual is almost strange. The machine moves slowly and heavily, opening a line in the soil while working as if it were stitching the ground from underneath. It does not have the beauty of a combine swallowing corn or the impact of an articulated tractor pulling a huge disc. But there is something impressive about watching a machine prepare land to produce better for years. The reason it stands as one of the most unusual machines on this list is the limited and highly technical market. Agricultural drainage requires serious investment, a specialized crew, and very specific use, so machines like this never become as common as tractors or combines. Damme Drainage represents the hidden side of mechanization, machines almost nobody sees, but machines that can completely change the future of a field. In the end, this list showed that not every canceled or forgotten machine was a complete mistake. Some were born ahead of their time, others were too specialized, some were expensive to maintain, and others were simply overtaken by solutions that were more modern, simpler, or easier to operate. These machines are not just scrapyard curiosities or forgotten pieces from old brochures. They tell the story of farmers, engineers, and manufacturers trying to save time, reduce effort, increase productivity, and deal with soils, crops, and field tasks that do not always accept ordinary solutions. Now tell me in the comments, which of these machines did you find the most unusual? Which one looked like a good idea, but too difficult to make work in the field? And which canceled or forgotten farm machine would you add to a future list? If you enjoy this kind of content, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell. That is very important for the growth of the channel because it shows YouTube that this content is relevant and helps the video reach more people who also enjoy farm machines, tractors, combines, and giant equipment working in the field. And stay tuned, because every week there is a new video about the most incredible, brutal, and impressive machines in the world. I'll see you in the next video.